Welcome back everyone, Energy Fabricator here. I've just returned from my first trip to the Scrapyard for 2015. As usual, I had to come back with a handful of bits and pieces, so let's take a look at what I've got. Now the first thing I found was this good quality foot pedal. The brand is Storz, S-T-O-R-Z, and it's made in Germany. It's a decent quality unit. The whole thing is cast in one piece, this whole base here, aluminium pedal, aluminium assembly down here, and aluminium top cap. So yeah, pretty happy with that. It's in fairly good condition, apart from a little corrosion on the top here, which was due to something falling into this screw hole, and the whole screw head's all rusted out. Fortunately, I've got a replacement here, so we'll pop that in when it comes time to put this back together. If I take the cap off, you can see we've got a rubber gasket here to keep it all clean and dry. And if I bring you in a bit closer, you can see that we've actually got two switches in there. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. You can see the two leads leading into them there. And if I depress the pedal, you'll be able to see and hear both switches activate. There goes the first one, and if we go a bit further, we get the second switch. So it's a two-stage action. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. We'll have to hook that up to some cabling and maybe even hook that up to the black box power supply or some sort of coil winding jig. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I've been on the lookout for one of these for a while, but I haven't found one that I've been really happy with, so I'm sure this one will more than do the job. We've got that screw back on and good as new. So we'll put that aside for the moment, and the next thing I found were these vibration isolation mounts. They're fairly decent size. These are 3 inches in length and about 1.5 inches in diameter. So they're built for something pretty heavy duty, and I'm sure they'll come in handy later on down the track. We've got the brass threaded inserts there. Can't go wrong. Now the next thing I found was this high voltage transformer. You can see we've got one winding around the core here, terminated here and here, and the other winding is underneath the paper here, and that comes out to this terminal and the other lead to that terminal there. So it's a high voltage transformer. You can tell by the output leads there. And we've also got this winding here, so it's some sort of flyback feedback transformer of sorts. And this one's also wound on a piece of ceramic bakelite, terminated here and here. Now the next thing I found were some ballast transformers for some metal halide lamps, and I didn't take the ballast transformers because I've got more than enough of those, but I did pick up these capacitors. There's 34 microfarads. Got 2 at 34 microfarads and 1 at 36 microfarads. They're rated to 500 volts AC. All potted up, they're in fairly good condition. So I thought I had to have those. Also found a couple more of these flow control valves. Can't get enough of them. And I also found another one of these push button switches. I've already got one of these, so I think I must have just missed this one last time I was at the Scrapyard. So now I've got 2 of them. Now I also found another little pressure gauge, and this one was brand new in the bag, so I couldn't help but pick that up. And I also got myself a little DC Milli Amp Meter. It was connected to some other circuitry, but I managed to take the unit and the main board that was attached to the rear terminals Got to figure out what all that's about. There's some wires coming out there, so I'm thinking we can get some power measurements as well as milliamps. We've got a watt scale, it seems, across the top there in blue. So we'll have to check that out and get that fired up. This little guy here is just a dual micro switch sliding stage assembly, so we can actually adjust these screws here and the switch moves backwards and forwards on this sliding stage, so we can get a precise activation on something. Never know when something like that's going to come in handy. I also managed to score a couple of these really heavy duty earth lugs here, like a quick release assembly on a screwdriver, so it was pretty cool. I found two of these. It's still got the cable attached, so I just have to cut that off and remove the cable. But here I've got the other one, and I've attached a piece of brass rod so you can see how it would be used. But there's the terminal on the end there, so we've just got to unscrew that, get the cable out and rewire it. And I've got a good bunch of 50mm squared earth lead that we can connect these to for a quick earth connection. But that's pretty much how you'd use it. You just screw it onto a copper or brass rod, and you've got your high current earth lead. Also found a few more little aluminium standoffs here, threaded on both ends. I've got a couple more inline fuses out of a piece of medical equipment. So these are fairly decent quality, nice threaded connection. I also managed to pick up three of these guys here, three little panel mount 4mm banana jacks. Pretty heavy duty terminals there, so it'll handle a few amps. Now I saw a couple of these flexible cable conduits while I was down at the scrapyard, so I picked them up and took them home, and they were fairly dirty when I got them, so I didn't know what condition they were in, but once I've cleaned them up, they've seemed to come up in pretty much A1 condition. Standard electrical threaded terminals on the ends there, so that means that we can connect a standard plug to the end of it, like I've done here. I've got my 15 amp plug connected to that end. The other end I'm thinking of connecting to my black box power supply, so that we've got a good solid input for the 15 amp variac. So that'll come in handy, and I might even use the other one on the same unit or on something else, don't know yet. I also found an old piece of medical equipment that had a whole bunch of resistors inside it, starting from this little guy here, which is just a 5 watt resistor. This one here is 30 ohms. Then we go up to this guy here, which is a 20 watt resistor, 30 ohms. And then I've got a few 25 watt resistors. This one here is 105 ohms. Also got another 105 there, and this one here is 137 ohms, and this one here is 95 ohms. This one here is a 100 watt resistor, 21 ohms, and this one here is 100 watts at 42 ohms. So these are slightly larger again, but this one here is actually 50 ohms, and we've got 91 ohms and 105 ohms on this one here. And they're fairly large resistors, 160 watts. This one here is a good 8 inches long and diameter of about 1 inch. So they'll come in handy for some power dumping or resistive ballasting or current limiting. Now I managed to pick up 4 of these casters. I'll be using these on my vacuum system frame. They're pretty heavy duty. They're 4 inches in diameter and about 1.5 inches wide. That should be more than enough to support my vacuum system frame. What I was going to do originally was to weld them straight onto the frame, but because I want to get the frame galvanized, I can't attach them yet. So what I'm going to do is fix these casters to some base plates. I've got some 5mm thick steel base plates here. I'll have to drill and tap these to suit the holes on the casters, and then we can weld that directly to the frame, get the whole thing galvanized, and then when it comes back we can just bolt these casters straight onto it and it's good to go. I also managed to find 20 of these Honda LED stop lights. As you can see, there's an LED strip right down the full length of this thing, 44 LEDs in total, runs off 12 volts. It's pretty bright when you turn it on, obviously, but with 20 of these that'll make a good little load test or illumination for something. Now the last thing I've got to show you is this triode here. It is massive. I've got absolutely no use for it, but I couldn't just leave that there in the scrapyard to go to waste. It's in perfect condition. It was still in the box when I found it. It's an English Electric Valve Co. Limited triode made in England. Specs on it is it's a BW1176J2. It's actually a liquid cooled unit, so we've got the ports here for the water cooling. Obviously we've got to hook up a radiator and a pump and all that sort of stuff to it. It's 10 kV, I can't remember how many kVA it was or how many watts it'll handle, but it's a pretty powerful unit. You can check out these terminals on the top here. It's like a 1/2 inch diameter rod there, and over here we've got the vacuum port where it was sealed off. And you can see on the top here we've got a glass separator between the actual top cap and the electrodes. Thoriated tungsten in there. Obviously the glass is protecting us from the radiation. Thoriated tungsten's not really strong enough to penetrate through this glass here, but this thing is huge, so I thought I might keep that as a just a bit of a piece to have on the bench, something cool to look at. Who knows, maybe one day if we get really excited I might put some power into this and get it fired up, but it's going to take a bit of work. We've got to hook up a radiator and water cool it and all that sort of stuff, so who knows, we'll see how we go. Okay, as always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and leave some comments.